After 3 years of working in an office, I realized I needed a break. The long commute, almost an hour and a half each way, endless hours in the office, and late nights in front of my computer had taken a serious toll on my physical and mental health. The breaking point came one night when I woke up with chest pain and severe shortness of breath. Terrified that I was having a heart attack, I called 911 and was rushed to the nearest hospital. After a series of tests, the doctors diagnosed me with a panic disorder. While my mental health had never been perfect, I had never experienced anything this intense before. I was shocked that stress could have such a profound physical effect on my body. Despite my parents' and friends' advice, I quit my first real job for the sake of my health. Luckily, I soon found a much closer and better job at a small restaurant called The Rabbit. It was in a fairly remote area, but customers were never in short supply since it was the only restaurant around. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, both day and night. Compared to my office job, I could wear jeans and a t-shirt. My shifts never started before 10 a.m., and my coworkers felt more like friends than competitors. I enjoyed working there. I look back on those 2 years with fondness, despite what happened. It was a Friday evening, and we were getting ready to close at midnight. Sometimes we stayed open later, but that night, the last bar customers had left early. Kira, a waitress in her early 20s, sat at the counter, counting her tips, while Vlad and I restocked the bar and washed the last few beer glasses. "You better hurry up before the fog gets worse," Kira said with a smirk. Yeah, I know," Vlad replied, sounding irritated. "I'm staying over at my parents' tonight." Vlad's parents lived just a few blocks away from the restaurant, and he sometimes crashed there if he was too tired or a little too drunk to drive home after a late shift. I stepped outside for a moment. The fog in town didn't seem too bad, but on the highway leading back to where I lived, it was so thick that I couldn't even see the road. "Great, just great," I muttered, shaking my head. Kira stepped outside too, glanced at the road, and then exchanged a tense look with me. "Nestor, where do you live?" she asked, concern in her voice. "Nashville," I replied. Kira's face paled. "You do realize you're not making it home tonight, right?" she said, then quickly added, "Management should have let you two go earlier. So what are you gonna do now?" "I have to drive," I said hesitantly. "I don't really have a choice." "Do you know anyone in town?" Kira asked. I shook my head. "Well, you can crash at my place if you want," she offered. "I've got a couch. Just promise me you won't go outside in this fog. Especially not on Highway 2526. It's dangerous. There are accidents there all the time, even in clear weather. Imagine how bad it is when you can't see more than 20 feet ahead." She wasn't wrong. Highway 2526 was infamous for its deadly crashes. The road was rural, yet busy, just a 2-lane highway with sharp curves. I was still a bit surprised that Kira had invited me to stay over. We were friendly, but she had never shown any signs of being interested in anything more than that. The offer felt unexpected, though I figured she was just concerned about my safety. The weather wasn't all that bad, but I still agreed to stay, partly for safety, partly out of curiosity. Did she actually see me as more than just a coworker? As Vlad and I finished up, Kira told me I could meet her outside when I was ready to leave. "Hey, do you think Kira likes me?" I asked Vlad once we were alone. I'm kinda surprised she actually invited me over. Vlad shrugged. "Maybe," he said. He wasn't himself tonight. Normally, Vlad was outgoing and full of energy, but tonight he seemed distant, not like his usual self. Maybe he was just tired. We wrapped up our work, and I was about to head out when Vlad suddenly stopped me. "Listen, Nestor, seriously, don't drive in this fog tonight. I don't care what's going on with you and Kira. Just stay until morning. It's safer." That caught me off guard. Vlad wasn't exactly known for being a cautious driver. If anything, he had a reputation for reckless speeding and driving under the influence. I wanted to ask why he was so worried, but I was too exhausted and Kira was already waiting for me outside. "Don't worry, I'll see you tomorrow," I said, giving him a quick wave before heading to her apartment. Kira's apartment was less than 5 minutes away. When we arrived, she let me in, pulled a blanket and a couple of pillows from her closet, and placed them neatly on the couch. "Thanks," I said, though I felt a bit awkward. Spending the night at her place felt strange. We only saw each other at work, and the whole situation seemed a little out of place. Luckily, Kira broke the tension by putting on a Stephen King movie. Turns out, we were both horror fans. As we watched and snacked, I started realizing there was no romantic tension between us. And that was fine by me. Kira was a great friend, and I genuinely enjoyed her company. After a while, my thoughts drifted back to Vlad's weird behavior. "Did you notice how he was acting tonight?" I asked. "Quiet as a mouse, and he didn't even have a single beer." Kira shrugged. "Don't overthink it. He's always like that when there's fog. Vlad doesn't like talking about it, but a few years ago he saw a really bad accident in the fog. He never told me the details, but whatever happened, it messed him up." I nodded. Once the movie ended, Kira went to bed, leaving me alone in the living room. I had just started dozing off when my phone rang. It was my roommate, David. Thinking his call could wait until morning, I ignored it and closed my eyes again. A second later, my phone lit up with a message. "Call me now." The text was in all caps. Annoyed, I sighed, got up, and stepped onto the porch so I wouldn't wake Kira. I called David back. "What the hell is so important that you're calling me at 2 in the morning?" I asked. "Our apartment got broken into," he replied. "You're joking." "I wish. I called the cops before dialing you. They're on their way. I just got home from Oksana's and found the lock busted. They took almost everything. The TV? Gone." "What about my PlayStation?" I asked, my stomach tightening. David sighed. "I don't see it either. Sorry, man." "Stay there. I'm coming." I hung up, quickly gathered my things, and folded the blanket and pillows neatly before slipping out of Kira's apartment. I didn't want to wake her. I'd text her in the morning to explain. "Fucking bastards," I muttered as I reached my car. I thought about all the long hours I had spent at work, nearly killing myself to afford everything I owned, only for it to be stolen in a single night. Rage burned inside me. Sliding into the driver's seat, I texted David. "It's gonna take me longer than usual. The fog is too thick. Gotta drive slow." As soon as I hit the road, I realized just how dense the fog was. My anger dimmed, replaced by the need to focus. To keep myself awake, I turned on the radio. Nothing. Most stations weren't even coming through. The only one still playing was some folk channel blasting wedding songs. Eventually, I gave up and shut it off. Then, through the thick mist, I saw lights ahead. I slowed down. I realized that an SUV was parked on the roadside with its hazard lights flashing. Pulling up behind it, I stepped out of my car. The driver's side door was open, and inside a man probably in his 50s sat slumped forward, sobbing into his hands, mumbling something incoherent. I leaned in. "Excuse me, sir. Are you okay?" He didn't respond, just kept crying. "Do you need help? I can call someone." The man finally lifted his head. His face was gaunt, exhausted. "Help? There's no signal out here. We're done for. They're gonna kill us all." His voice trembled. I frowned. "Who's gonna kill you?" His answer was immediate. "Them. They did something to my car. I turned away for just a minute, and now it won't start. Listen, man, calm down. I'll call a tow truck and the police. Everything's gonna be fine." He kept crying, his breath coming in ragged gasps as I dialed 911. No signal. Tried again. Nothing. 5 calls later, still nothing. I knew reception was bad in this area, so I told him I'd walk up the road and try to get a signal. "It's pointless. It's all pointless," he muttered, rocking back and forth. I started to feel out of place. I had no idea how to calm down a person who was having a breakdown. Moreover, I had no clue how potential attackers could have damaged his SUV, as it seemed fine on the outside. But if someone really tampered with his car, why hadn't he left? I walked about 100 meters from where we were parked and tried calling 911 again. Still no luck. Frustrated, I walked back to the weeping man. "It really doesn't get signal. But if you could drive with me to the gas station, we can try calling for help from there." "No, you're one of them. I've been stuck here for 6 damn hours. This road should have ended miles ago," he screamed. I started to worry that the issue wasn't with his car, but possibly with his mental state. So, I turned toward my own car. He took this as a threat and started rummaging through his glove box. To my horror, he pulled out a gun. I jumped back. "Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. It's okay, I'm leaving," I said quickly, but he kept aiming at me until I was out of sight. Running back to my car, I slammed the door shut and floored the gas pedal, speeding down the foggy road. My heart was pounding in my chest, and as the headlights of his SUV disappeared into the mist, I slowed down, realizing I couldn't keep driving that fast. It was hard to steady my breath, so I opened my bag and tried to get to my calming pills. Deciding I'd driven far enough to be safe, I stopped and, luckily, was able to take my medication. Was there finally a signal? "Hello, where are you?" Kira asked, her voice filled with concern. "I had to go home." "Sorry, it was an emergency." I explained. "Where are you now?" "Still on the 2526, about halfway to Neroville. I've stopped because something strange happened to me that scared the hell out of me. I'll tell you all about it at work tomorrow." "Nestor, you can't be there alone. It's really dangerous. You have no idea." "All right, I'm coming to get you." "Kira, what are you doing?" "Don't come here. I'm fine. I just saw some crazy guy and it scared me, but it's nothing serious, honestly." There were short beeps in the receiver. Kira hung up. I tried calling her back, but the call didn't go through, no matter where I placed my phone. "Damn," I yelled, slamming my hand on the steering wheel. I couldn't keep driving because she knew where I was, and she was probably already on her way here. I didn't want to sit parked on the side of the dangerous road in the fog. About 10 minutes later, I went into the woods to relieve myself and try to catch a mobile signal. As I was heading back to my car, I saw a faint light in the woods. I squinted and made out the figure of a person with a flashlight. The person appeared to be large and somewhat tall, resembling the guy from the SUV. I had no desire to check if it was him or not, so I just headed back to my car. The fog in the woods was dense, and it was hard to make anything out. Suddenly, I crashed into something unknown. It knocked me off my feet and broke my nose, bleeding. I stumbled back and looked up. "Nestor," said Kira. "Kira, are you okay? Been wandering around here for so long?" she joked. "Better tell me why you're here and where your car is. I can't see a thing and some crazy guy with a gun is lurking around." "Sorry, I was worried about you. The car's parked nearby?" "Listen, we need to go before the fog gets worse," she said, walking behind me to the car. I didn't understand how the fog could get any worse since I couldn't see anything as it was. The girl said it would be better to stick together, so we decided to drive in the same car. "Do you want me to drive?" "I've driven before, so I have some experience." I nodded, and we started driving. I felt awkward while she was driving my car, but Kira handled it quite well. We were going faster than I was comfortable with. I asked her a few times to slow down, and she initially agreed, but then went back to a higher speed. I had no idea how Kira could see the road in this fog, so I tried to start a conversation, but she was too focused, and I realized it was better not to distract her. I asked if she could stop at a gas station that was a few kilometers ahead, and she agreed. When we arrived, I felt unwell. Kira said she would stay in the car, so I went to the restroom. After locking myself in, I splashed cold water on my face. Suddenly I got a call from Kira. "Hello," I said, surprised, not understanding why she was calling since we had just seen each other. "Hello, where are you?" I felt a bit cold, woke up, went into the room for a blanket, and you were gone. A chill ran down my spine at her words. "I'm in the restroom at the gas station," I stammered and continued. "Stop messing with me, I really felt sick." "Nestor, listen to me. Whatever happened at the gas station, it wasn't me. I should have told you how dangerous this all is when we were watching the movie." "What do you mean? What's going on? Is this something paranormal? Why doesn't anyone understand when the fog covers?" "Tell me, this happened to my grandfather many years ago. He was always really afraid of the fog, but never said why. Get to the point. Don't interrupt. Sorry, just my nerves can't handle everything that's happened in the last hour." "Okay, listen. Not long before my grandfather passed, he told me more about what he saw there. They can manipulate you and distort your perception. You don't have much time. They know you're there." "Oh my God," I said in panic, trying to keep myself together, cold sweat running down my face. Kira's strange behavior in the car started to make sense. "Listen to me. Find something you can use as a weapon, and don't let them realize that you know everything. Not until you're ready." I tried to ask who they were, but suddenly the call was cut off. Then there was a knock on the door. "Nestor, are you okay?" Kira's voice called out. Realizing I needed some time, I tried to speak as calmly as possible. "Just a second." Can you check in the car if I have a lighter? Okay, let's go faster. We need to get out of here, especially since you have work tomorrow. I heard footsteps that were fading away, followed by the sound of a door closing. I quietly stepped out of the stall and made my way to the store, looking for something I could use as a weapon. The store was empty, not even a cashier. I peeked outside and noticed that what was pretending to be Kira was standing just a few meters from my car. If I had gotten in the car sooner, I might have been able to escape, not seeing any other option. I ran to escape, and the creature, probably sensing my determination, tried desperately to beat me to it. It was already very close when I shoved it away with a scream. The next thing I remember is the creature standing in front of the car, and before I could hit the brakes, I felt my car slam into something. Quickly shifting into reverse, I drove off, knowing I had to get out of there. I accelerated, despite the fact that I couldn't see a thing, while also trying to call Kira. After the third attempt, the call finally went through. "Oh, Nestor, are you okay?" she asked. "But what the hell is happening?" I shouted. "This is too long to explain, just focus on getting out of here. If you've already passed the gas station, it's almost over." "Nestor, don't trust anyone on the road tonight because it's them." "Who are they?" I asked. "No one knows what they're called. They can distort themselves, change shape. Just get off this road as soon as you can." The call ended again. I kept driving slowly but steadily, hoping I would soon see the sign for Neroville up ahead. But to my horror, I noticed two headlights just a few meters ahead of me. I swerved to avoid a collision with the car. A man ran up to me and started knocking on the window while I was still moving. It was the man from the Jeep. I doubted whether he was an ordinary person or one of them, but I didn't want to take the risk. I tried to speed up to pass him, but the mud on the side of the road slowed me down. "Please, kid, I'm sorry for what happened. I have a wife and 2 kids at home. We need to get out of here," I heard the girl answer monotonously. "Please, help me get back to my senses." I opened the door, and he sat next to me. I didn't understand why I took such a risk, but from another perspective, he had tried to warn me earlier. Besides, he had a gun, which might come in handy at some point. "Where's the gun?" I asked. The man placed it on the back seat. "It'll stay there. I won't touch it," he promised. Well, we set off. I wasn't sure I had made the right decision, but I found out the man's name was Igor, and he lived at the other end of Neroville. Igor seemed like a perfectly normal person, so I started to feel better. "What brought you to this road today?" I asked. The man laughed and looked out the window. This struck me as strange, and I suddenly had a bad feeling. I watched him closely, and Igor turned around. I looked into his eyes. They were gray, with no visible pupils. I remembered that his eyes were brown when I saw him by the Jeep. This wasn't him. I slammed on the brakes, and at the same time, we both reached for the gun. The creature, making disgusting sounds, lunged at me, trying to wrest the gun from my hands. For a moment, we struggled for the gun. I managed to snatch it and pull the trigger just as it lunged at me from the shot. My ears rang. Panic seized my mind. I had to drag the body out of the car, then throw the gun into the forest. Fortunately, the bullet didn't hit my car as the passenger window was open. I was shaking the whole way while speeding through the night. It felt like I had been driving on this road for hours, but when I saw the Neroville sign illuminated by streetlights, the fog started to thin out quickly. When I got home, David was waiting for me. "What did the police say?" I asked, trying to sound as calm as possible. At that moment, the robbery was the least of my worries. A look of real confusion appeared on David's face. "What?" he asked. "The police?" I scanned the living room. Everything looked normal, and nothing was missing, but I knew it wasn't in my best interest to appear insane. "Have you heard about the robbery on our street?" I said, improvising. "My colleague at work told me that a house on our street was robbed last night." David looked surprised and replied, "No, first I'm hearing about it." We parted ways, and I went to bed, trying to sleep. I had no idea what had happened, but I guessed the worst was behind me. One thing I was sure of, I would never again drive that road in the fog. The next day, I woke up early and quickly got ready for work. When I remembered I had to drive to the restaurant on the same road, I immediately wanted to take the day off. But when I stepped outside, the sky was crystal clear. I checked Google Maps to see if there was an alternate route to work. There were a few detours I could take, but it would take almost twice as long. Not wanting to waste time, I took my medication and drove the same road. Everything looked fine. This time, the radio worked better, and the music helped me stay calm. Eventually, I started to relax, but suddenly the fuel indicator showed that I was almost out of gas. So I pulled into the gas station. I had to brake sharply when I noticed the yellow tape and several police cars. I was about to turn around, but then I saw Vlad and a few other people from the village standing nearby. After parking across the street, I walked over to them. "Vlad, what happened?" I asked. Vlad turned to me, and I was shocked to see him crying.